I remember once he said to us, and he coined one of his contemporaries at the time, a guy named Reggie Lewis, that, you know what, the white boys shouldn't have all the fun. No offense, Chris. But for him, it wasn't about, you know, what he was risking, what he could lose. It was about what he could gain and what he could add value to. I remember we were hustling entrepreneurs, and so we went to Gene for money, and he said, hey, baby, you know, Gene Jackson, we can get it done, but, you know, needs to be, you got to give in return. So, you know, coming from Wall Street, having the ability to do the numbers and all that, he said, look, you know, your office is here at the Palatial, World African Networks, in hot Atlanta. So we took our advisory advice to him to help him disinvest from the U.S. to invest in Africa. We were there, and I didn't understand the significance of having the opportunity to work with this man back then. And I, you know, growing up as in a single parent home, it was just, you know, as a black man, I knew what I saw on TV. I knew who they depicted us to be. That's not who we were. But Gene Jackson was the first African-American millionaire that I met. And I believed it could happen because I was just obstinate that way. But deep down inside, I actually questioned, are we really supposed to be on the bottom everywhere on the planet? But Gene Jackson told me, no, baby, that's not how Gene does it. Hey, we just $2 million, it's not a problem. So Gene set the blueprint for me. He's why I'm here 30 years later. I'm not going to be long, but I want us to I reflected when Brad called me up and he gave me this opportunity on, you know, there'll be a number of speakers behind me that I'm sure will testify very similarly, but who Gene Jackson was is a bit of who I am. And he had his ups, and as we see in his eulogy, his ups and his downs and his trials and tribulations, but he never stopped being Gene Jackson. He never stopped believing in who we are as Africans. There's a reason that this diaspora is in the room. There's a reason that people got on planes yesterday or 2 days ago to travel from the US to be here in Durban, right? Like, this is who Gene is. And I'm sure he always believed that he would win now, because that's who he is. But the truth is, he will not see us get to the mountaintop. Not here on this plane, but he sees us. And he's going to see Brad and Georgia and Christopher and the many after them because of the shoulders that he allowed us to climb on. I'm here today because of Gene Jackson's shoulders. That's my tribute. That's who I am. And I'm part of that is because of who Gene was. Gene always used to say, I love family, and we know he did. He had a lot of it. But that extended not just, you know, his progeny, but it extended to people like me, a little kid from Meridian, Mississippi that should not have made it out, much less be standing here thousands of miles away from what was home. I'm at home, and partly because of Gene Jackson. So for me, I'm sure, Chris and Georgia wonder, they go to school with my kids and they wonder, why is Uncle Will always around? Why is he always cheering me on? Why is he showing me how to make moves in a low post or encouraging me to play basketball? In the case of Georgia's, I'm just paying back what I borrowed from Gene. I owe it to you, Chris. It's not a liability to me, it's an opportunity. So I hope we embrace this as family. We don't forget him, we celebrate his life, but we celebrate and we honor him by continuing to believing in Africa. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Sabonani, and good morning to the people on the internet. First of all, let me thank Brad for giving me the chance to say a few remarks about his distinguished father. He was a great man to me. As Will said, we owe him a lot for someone who started. I just came back from Dubai literally a day ago, so I found out about this morning. And I wouldn't have missed it, Brad, for anything. So thank you for giving me a couple of minutes. What I would like for you all here to know about Gene, and at the time I first met him, I called him Mr. Gene because I'm also a child of the South. And when I met him, he was a towering personality. And we called him Mr. Gene. And so Mr. Gene, I knew about him before I knew him. It's a story of coincidence and tangents and similarities and shared interests and shared loves. Strangely enough, we both studied engineering, we both loved tennis, and we both had a fire for Africa. And again, I knew about him before I knew him. I was a kid of a military family as well. At the time, I was living in New Jersey in the United States and in the bedroom community of Philadelphia. My favorite basketball team was, guess who? Thank you. 76ers. The women always on point. So. The 76ers with Dr. J. At that time, I was a kid, and I loved Dr. J. But my favorite radio station was, guess what? WDAS in Philadelphia. And at the time, I lived near there, but there was no radio station in Jersey where I lived. So WDAS was how I learned about music. And I had no idea that later in life I'd meet the man who owned a piece of WDAS. After university in Boston, I moved to New York, and little did I know that I'd one day meet one of the owners of the cable station in New York, Queens, Brooklyn Cable. Gene Jackson was one of those owners. And as Will said, Gene was one of the first people that I knew about that looked like me, that I shaken his hand, and it actually was a millionaire and a business person and making change in our society. And after university, I pursuing my dream of going into Africa, and I ran into Gene again. And at this time, it was no longer Mr. Gene, he was now Gene. I thought I was a man. And we pitched Gene on the idea about doing some work for, at the time we were bidding on licenses in the US and doing some work for NYNEX and Bell Atlantic on coming into Africa. And we told Gene we needed money. And for those of you who know Gene, what did Gene say? No, baby. I'm not giving you money, but I'll do something better than that. So what Gene did, he told us at the time that he had these offices called the World Africa Network in Atlanta. I just moved from New York to DC. Had met a woman there, and we were going to move to Atlanta. And so we moved to Atlanta. Will was from there. And we went up in these offices, and Gene gave us everything we asked for except for money. He gave us office space. He gave us staff. And he gave us attention. And he gave us his time. I met his lovely wife at that time in Atlanta, and they invited us into their home. We would often go there for dinners and talks with Gene. And again, little did I know that this human being that had all these things in common with, I'd actually become a mentee of his by accident. And it was one of the seminal points of my life because it catapulted me into a further love of Africa, that here's someone who could actually do it. And as Will said, Gene was actually packing up, and as he said, hey, baby, I'm leaving this place. And so he was packing up and leaving Atlanta. And for those of you who don't know Gene, he said, hey, baby, all the time, a lot deeper than I can. and before he left, though, he had a restructuring problem, we'll call it. And Will and I were brought out to actually help him do this restructuring. And one of the interesting things about that, I'll come back to that later, but we learned a very big lesson about Gene. But before I go to that lesson, let me talk about quickly, Gene was a big man. Gene had a bigger vision, and he had an even bigger heart and probably one of the deepest laughs and greatest senses of humor that I've ever experienced. And just quickly, Gene's vision was to bring children of Africa together in a commercial way. He wasn't a touchy-feely social guy that way. He was like, let's be about the business. How are we going to form capital? How are we going to get things done? How are we going to build institutions that go beyond ourselves? These were Gene's visions. We owe that to Gene to carry out this vision. I certainly have tried in my life, and Will has as well. And at the time, I had a lot more hair and no gray when I first met Gene, and the gray hair is all due to this love I have for Africa, I think. But it was inspired, and not really inspired. I was already inspired, but it was actually made real and helped me believe by Gene. Also, and Gene lived this vision of having an Africa that had greater geopolitical power, of one that was better for the children of Africa everywhere, from Haiti to South Africa. Gene was real about that. I hope you hear a lot about his heart this afternoon, but let me tell you about my experience. He was a giving brother. I told you about his mentorship they gave to us, the incubation he gave to us while he was in Atlanta. I also want you to hear today about his sense of humor. My last bit of minutes here was just to tell you about the story of his sense of humor that most reminded me of him. This deal I told you about, he was restructuring out of Quicks and a lot of things he had in the U.S. And at the time, Gene, for those you don't know, Gene was a multi-millionaire when he came to South Africa. He started a Umoja village in Bryanston, his house there. But before he got those multi-millions out of the U.S., we had to help him restructure. And for those of you who were around that time, you know there were some challenges at that point. And we were instructed one night late. We were doing all this technical work for Gene. And Gene said, "Hey, baby, y'all missing the point." And we're like, "What's the point, Mr. Gene?" He's like, "I need some walk-around money." So we're like, "Gene, how much walk-around money do you need?" "About 20 million, baby." And then he says, "My stride is long." So with that, I'll close by saying, Mr. Gene, your stride has been long. Your impact has been great for many of us. We truly appreciate your spirit, and we hope it lives on, and we hope we all do it justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will and Antoine, for sharing your experiences with Baba J, or Mr. J. I just wanted to, first, a couple of housekeeping. If you need the restroom, just go out the door. It's the first door on the right. You'll see the restrooms. There are drinks at the bar, but if you ordering alcohol, you got to pay for it yourself. So just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Another issue that we're having is that we have a number of speeches that are recorded. You'll see it in the program. And the people in the U.S. cannot hear the speeches. So we've augmented the program a bit. There'll be some speeches that are read. But everybody who is recorded that you see on the program will not be shown here. You'll be able to follow and see their speech from the website after this event, this celebration. So Miss Ngidi Archer could not make it. She sent a recording, so we were going to have to move past her, as well as Dr. Khossi from Zenzele. He also had a recorded speech, but we have to move past him right now on the list because we cannot hear, or the people on the other side cannot hear him. There is a speech I'm going to read now by the former chair of Zenzele. So those of you who don't know what Zenzele is, it's an organization that Baba J helped to co-found. It was really focused on healthcare between South Africa and the U.S. Doctors from the United States would come and work with doctors in South Africa in the communities around South Africa. That's the essence of the partnership. And what I'm going to read right now is a tribute to Baba J from Dr. James Bennett. Again, he was one of the former chairs of Zenzele. Zinzelli would like to express his heartfelt condolences and sympathies to the family and friends of Mr. Jackson. As many of you know, Mr. Jackson spearheaded the formation of Zinzelli. Zinzelli is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping South Africa meet its healthcare needs. We worked hand in hand with healthcare leaders and others to increase the level of quality medical services to South African citizens. Founded in 1996 in Atlanta, Georgia, the organization committed to facilitating service provision to the community, increasing human resource capabilities, developing skills, and Black economic empowerment within the medical industry in the US, South Africa, and the entire African continent. Mr. Jackson provided accommodation and other resources to our organization at no charge to the organization. His vigor and leadership helped the organization to be designated as a non-governmental organization, NGO, of choice in the area of healthcare. Our organization was able to teach laparoscopy at several wonderful hospitals in South Africa. Additionally, multiple state-of-the-art pieces of equipment were left for use by South African physicians. The most valuable asset, the collaboration between U.S. and South African physicians. These relationships still exist and have withstood the test of time. We are indebted to the generosity and the vision of this extraordinary man. He will surely be missed here in the U.S. as well in South Africa. Thank you very much, Dr. James Bennett, Chair of Zinzelli USA. Okay, thank you. Next, we will have a speech by Mr. Sinzo Mafiela. Sinzo's not here. Not here. Okay. We'll try and hold a space for him. Maybe he can speak when he comes later. Dr. Frank McCardle sent a recorded speech. We will move past them as well. Our next speaker is Mr. Wills Nkunu. Is he here? Not here? Okay. All right. We will start with the memorial. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any other speakers who would like to say something at this time? We're opening it up. Anyone? Please come forward.
Sanbonani, says, good afternoon. We always say good afternoon. That's why the African way is always better, Sanbonan. It doesn't matter what time of the day. It is Sanbonan, which is a wonderful thing. I'm so glad to grab this opportunity because I knew Eugene in Los Angeles, California. He was the biggest promoter of disinvestment. He was working with us as a family, with my late husband, Professor Mazisi Kunene, who taught at UCLA for 23 years. Everything that was Africa that was taking place in Los Angeles, it had to be at Gene's house. I'm just grabbing this opportunity because I know a number of people were not able to make it, but let me just say this very quickly. The first time I bought a cellular phone, it was Afritel. Remember that? The first time I heard there was a Cell phone, I bought it from Eugene Jackson. He was bigger than life. He loved Africa. I met him in Los Angeles when he was negotiating to bring Coca-Cola back to South Africa. And I know I went with the late Square. We went to LA to meet with him. We went to New York, actually, to try and get that contract for Coca-Cola. It ended up in the Kunene Brothers Coca-Cola, which is still family, so it wasn't lost, it was really maintained. Angazi ukuthi ngiyathini nje. When we talk about black empowerment, I always imagined things when I was living in Los Angeles. I was always hanging around the 100 black women. I was always going to things. But I think, like Jean, I dreamt a bigger dream about South Africa. So I was always trailing him and listening to what he was talking about. I know we were on the same group, creating and fighting for Sibaya Casino. I don't know what else Jean did not try. And those who didn't listen to him were losers. And you're right, he was not going to give you any money. Jean will give you so much advice, you listen that, oh man, but all I needed was some money. He would laugh you out and you go and figure it out yourself. And I can say for people in Durban, hands up those who've ever been to the Mazisi Kunene Museum manuscript, which is a center of African heritage. Eugene brought his 2 sons. This is a place where there are 10,000 manuscripts written in isiZulu. They were written while he was in exile. We brought them back to South Africa, and they're sitting there. But Jean was sure to bring his 2 handsome sons to the museum to say, here is knowledge. And so with that, I'm going to read a message. Dear friends and family of Eugene D. Jackson, we were deeply saddened to hear about the passing of Eugene D. Jackson, a remarkable individual who dedicated his life to promoting African unity, cultural pride, brotherhood, and nation building. His tireless efforts to create a brighter, more just future for African people everywhere have left an indelible mark on our world. As an organization and family of the Mazisi Kunene family, committed to celebrate and preserving African heritage, we hold Eugene's work and legacy in high esteem. His unwavering commitment to the African diaspora's empowerment and unification inspires us all. We stand in solidarity with you during this difficult time, and our thoughts and prayers are with his loved ones. May Eugene's remarkable life and achievements continue to inspire and motivate us to strive for a world where African people everywhere can thrive with dignity and pride. We will always remember his contributions and honor his memory by continuing to work towards a future that embodies his vision. With love and condolences. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Mr. Michael Sudarkasa speak.
Sani Banani. That's all I'm going to say. You know, I have a cousin who's a pastor, Reverend Adora Lee, and she says that people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. I struggle to figure out what hat I should put on to make remarks about Eugene, because he was in my life for seasons, for reasons, and I met him when I was about, and I'm 60, so I'll just help you do the math, 22? And I met him familially. My mother moved to Philadelphia, outside of Philadelphia. My late mother was the president of Lincoln University, Pennsylvania. And I'm assuming that that is where she met Eugene Jackson, because he owned WDAS. I'm not 100% sure, because the other linkages that we had was our family, Bahamian descendants from South Florida. Eugene had Florida as one of the places where he'd lived. We had a pipeline of family moved to New York. I was born in New York. Gene ran Unity Broadcasting in New York. All I remember as a law student was that, and my colleagues have talked about it, for me, as they mentioned, first time you meet an African-American millionaire. Gene was big, physically big, big ideas, big vision. But he was a mentor. I mean, I know his children are here, but he took in a whole bunch of other people who are not physically here or even probably on the screen as a son or a daughter. Let me help you learn how to negotiate life. Africa was always a key part of that vision. And so he was a bridge builder even before he moved here. And I didn't know about the Rumble in the Jungle, but I could see how that would have been impactful. In '90, and I'm a lawyer by training, I was living in Miami. Miami snubbed President Mandela. Only city in the whole country that didn't want to host him because of his, the relationship between Mandela and Fidel Castro. And I thought, I'm in the wrong place. I moved to DC. And I started a company called 21st Century Africa. I thought, okay, I'm 26 years old. I don't know much about, let me back up. It wasn't that I don't know much about the law, but I knew more about Africa. My mother was an anthropologist. I had spent my life crisscrossing with my mom, her only child, going back to, lived in Ghana, lived in Nigeria. So I'm like, I'm going to focus on helping mid-cap companies expand into Africa. We were talking about emerging markets in the US at that time. Everybody was talking about Asia. Very few people were talking about Africa. And I am different than almost every other business person that stood up here because Gene did pay me. He was my first client. And he commissioned a study called The Global African Economy, 1 billion people and $1 trillion market at that time. We took that study and we went to the Congressional Black Caucus. And there's a symposium every year that the Congressional Black Caucus has on Africa. And we headlined. This was in '91. And from that time on, we continued to talk about opportunities in Africa. And I talked about the reason, season, and lifetime because I remember many different kind of flashpoints. When Gene came to a symposium that we had at Lincoln University called the 21st Century Africa Forum, I brought together about 30 friends from all over the world, and we were planning and strategizing. I thought about, again, the caucus was a thing. If you knew Gene, he was always at the caucus, and had the ear. This was the thing, again, when you talk about people who have impact, of leaders, religious leaders, you talk about political leaders, And definitely all of the guys in the Black Enterprise 100 were all first name basis with Gene. And many of them looked up to him, and they were also multimillionaires. So to say that if you call this person, they'd call you back, as a young person, was very impactful. I'm wearing our colors. Gene was also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, but he didn't always nail you, so to speak. But it's the oldest African-American collegial fraternal organization founded in 1906. Before I think I was 25, Gene was already an illustrious member of our organization, which is one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to be here. And I have a brother who's going to come and read a poem. Pan-Africanist, but not Pan-Africanist, and I'm going to come to the continent and kiss the ground, I'm in Mother Africa. Pan-Africanist in the sense that if we were ever, as African people, going to have a seat at the table, it will have to be on economic terms, and we have to be there. And so he spent a lifetime. I was watching one of the videos that he's got. If you Google Gene, you'll find a bunch of videos. He said, when I die, I want to be doing a deal. And listening to his brother, he was probably trying to do that. And he talked to me about the black automobile with Toyota deal. But the thing about Gene, and he talked about that love of family. And so his family became like my family, in the sense that it was one of the reasons why I moved to South Africa. And when I moved here, I had the comfort, and I've been here some time. I moved here in 99. He had moved here, I think, in 91, 92. 98. Full time. Okay. So it's a lifetime, and there's a few of us in the room who have followed that vision of being a bridge builder, of trying to be someone who creates economic linkages, someone who's thinking that if you deliver on that, life is better for Africans on the continent and life is better for African Americans. That's a huge legacy. We're talking about condolences, and I wish the family condolences. But what I really hope that you take away from today is that your father has a legacy that will live on in the work of all of us for some time. And so he's there with my mom. I'm sure they're kicking it. They were good friends. He was a trustee at Lincoln. This is the season, reason, lifetime. There's so many different touch points. And just someone who loved life and lived it, as someone said unequivocally, his way. Gene had bigger than, when you say somebody has bigger X than, so he had bigger X than most people in every way. I have 5 kids. I had a big family. Gene had a bigger family. I won't go down that line. But all I'm saying is that it's really an honor to be able to share with you all, to have you laugh, because I think this is a homegoing of celebration. And what it makes me think about, because Gene created stuff daily. We couldn't keep up. Those of us who work with Gene, he's got a new idea that makes some sense. It's hard to keep up. But having something that reminds people of his legacy, and I'll talk to Aisha, Brad, yourselves, about how to do that, I think is critically important, because when you look at the history of African Americans in South Africa, and it goes back to the AME Church, so we're like the second 100 wave, 100 years, and we're in that second wave. There are pivotal people who've come and, given it a run. A lifetime is really not that long when you think about it. And he's one. In the 90s, when Ebony and Jet and all those folks were talking about the African Americans coming, Gene was at the forefront of that. He ushered in a whole group of people. Not all had the staying power to still be here. But for those of us who are here, and this is where our fraternity, which was founded in 2010, looks at it, he helped plant a number of institutions here. And so it's important that we will write them down, because, again, some of the family are on that side of the ocean. You may not know all these things about Dad, but it's important. It's part of his legacy. So I just want to say thank you to the family for this opportunity. Your dad was a complicated man. I couldn't follow him on everything. That's inside, but but genuinely, if you got to know him, a son of Africa, just born in the U.S. I want to invite my fraternity brother, Sidney Hall, to come up. There's a poem that I'd like us to share with you so that there is that part of the memorial that you take away as well.
Good evening. There goes an alpha man. There goes an alpha man. As we gather to bid farewell, Brother Eugene Jackson, thy life's journey now ends well. From Alpha to Omega, thy path was bright, guided by principles, shining with all thy might. With manly deeds, scholarship, and love, thou hast lived, strived, and risen above. Through trials and triumphs, thou stoodst tall, a true Alpha through it all. Now, as thou enterest the Omega gate, we celebrate thy life, thy fate. May thy legacy forever shine, inspiring generations divine. Farewell, dear brother. May thy soul rest in the bosom of the Almighty. Thou art blessed. May thy memory live on forevermore in the hearts of Alphas and all who adore. To the Omega chapter thou art now called, where brothers await who have preceded all. Join the ranks of the ancestors true and continue to inspire anew. Rest in power, dear brother, and peace. May thy Alpha spirit never cease. We'll remember thee in thy good deeds, in the bond of Alpha Phi Alpha, thy fraternal creeds. Thank you very much.
Hello. I realized I didn't introduce myself earlier because I do see some faces that I don't know. So I'm Aisha Jackson. I am Baba's fourth child, third daughter. And yes, I can confirm he does love family. There's a lot of us. So I'm on the mic not because I wanted to be. I actually didn't want to talk today because it's a bit emotional. But I am going to read a speech from Auntie Carol, who unfortunately couldn't be here due to family challenges. But I think she is on a call. And Auntie Carol, I hope I do your tribute justice. Umoja, it means the spirit of togetherness. It elevates the human spirit. Good afternoon, Sanbonani Dumelang. Thank you for being here, both in person and online, to join the family of Umoja. As Mark 6:4 reads, a prophet is honored everywhere except in his hometown, among his relatives, and in his own family. Today, I am here with you all to pay my respects and honor Baba Eugene D. Jackson, a prophet ahead of his time, a visionary with dreams as vast as his heart, and a man who saw every person as a sister, brother, or family. He lived Umoja, embodying the spirit of togetherness in every aspect of his life. Eugene welcomed everyone, countless holidays, gatherings, impromptu gatherings of his tribe and clan filled his homes from Homestead Avenue in Bryanston to Umoja Farm in Pretoria and St. Kilda in Durban North. His generosity knew no bounds. Phyllis, his dear wife, often found herself surprised by the political gatherings he hosted, yet graciously rose to each occasion, embodying to whom much is given, much is required. With a nod to Nando's and Woolworths for their support, Mama Phyllis would shake her head, smile, and drive to buy provisions for the masses, while we gathered at Baba Jean's feet to listen to his visions and discussions. I never said thank you. Thank you to a visionary and a father. Okay. Thank you to a visionary and a father who embraced me at 28 years old. I met him while accompanying a friend, Dr. Sandra Turner, who has since passed. Sandra had invited me to the reception hosted by Miss Betty Lamar. That night, I met Baba Jean, a towering figure with a booming voice and laughter that filled the room. That night changed the course of my journey, becoming a catalyst for my growth in education and business. My path was redirected, my environment shaped, and my mind often stretched to understand his vision. I'm not complaining. I never had the chance to fully express my gratitude to a man who welcomed me into the Jackson clan, where I found warmth, respect from his children, we love you, who grew to know me as Auntie Carol. When I asked my mother her first impression of Eugene Jackson, she said he was warm and hospitable. Baba Jean's generosity knew no limits. Many December holidays and farm visits became nights filled with business and political discussions, and then come morning, Eugene would have everyone in his household, visitors and all, walk down to the beach together. And thank you, Phyllis, for the delicious breakfast that awaited us afterward. Eugene Jackson was passionate about South Africa. Where others saw problems, he saw solutions. His visions for a prosperous South Africa often left even the most tenacious political fighters in awe. Baba Jean envisioned a united Africa diaspora, working together to solve socioeconomic challenges. Health was especially important to him. He would say, "Sister Carol, what are we going to do? We can't wait for the politicians." Health was especially important to him, and during the late 80s, as HIV became a devastating reality, he would say, "Sister Carol, what are we going to do? We can't wait for the politicians." In 1997, he and Phyllis began collaborating with medical doctors from the United States while welcoming pioneers like Doctors Darrell Mitchell, James Bennett, Titus Duncan, Camille Davis Williams. She delivered my baby. Sorry, I didn't know this. Sharon Harley, Johnson, Edwards, Harper, Jeffries, McGee, and more to South Africa. These doctors joined South African counterparts like Doctors Pitso, De Klape, Professor Mahobo, Matuba, and Malefi to form a joint U.S. South Africa initiative to address backlogs in healthcare, specifically in hospitals like Medunsa, Katlehong, Natalspruit, and Rustenburg. Together they formed an NGO named Zenzele, meaning doing it for yourself, and the doctors volunteered their expertise, paying their own travel expenses to contribute to our nation. But wait, I'm not a doctor, neither is Monique Griffins. How did we end up with Zenzele? As my dear friend Dr. Mareklo would tease, no, Carol, it didn't use medical jargon. I don't recall seeing you at Medunsa, but Baba Jean co-opted us into being administrator and fundraisers. He and Phyllis initially hosted the doctors, and later Monique and Moreklo and I lobbied for sponsors. Companies like SAA, Mercedes, Aspen, Pharmacare, and Escom, along with sponsors like Don Mahobo, the late Tabiso Lekle, and the Don Group, Tabo Lekloke, Pelani of Healthcare, provided support. My apologies for the pronunciation. In 1998, then Deputy President Thabo Mbeki visited Bethany Children's Home to break the silence on HIV. While this event didn't yield the desired impact, it underscored the importance of raising awareness. Zenzele resolved to address the stigma and misinformation surrounding HIV. Bethany Children's Home and Carl Sitole's Children's Home became our beneficiaries, and in December 1998, Eugene led the organization of an African First World AIDS Dinner at Gallagher Estates with business leaders, the medical fraternity, and distinguished guests. MEC of Health, Gu Ngubele, and Gauteng Premier, Mr. Motsecha, were keynote speakers. In 1999, when Thabo Mbeki was inaugurated as president, Eugene and Phyllis were invited to the gala dinner. I remember Baba Eugene's spirit of togetherness as he requested extra seats for some friends. Despite the stress of the evening, when he showed up with 3 additional guests towering over me, he gently reminded me to be gracious and show finesse. In 2016, at the 21st International AIDS Conference, Zenzele doctors once again participated meaningfully. Eugene's love for African arts, fashion, people led him to fund creative ventures like the African Renaissance Dinner, Mbogeni Ngema's play The Zulu, and other cultural performances. A small African dance troupe supported by Eugene grew to become the renowned group African Umoja. Managed by 2 sisters he encouraged from the start, they carry his legacy today. Eugene loved inspiring young, creative minds, challenging them to expand their thinking. Many African presidents, ministers, dignitaries dined with him, but we never truly thanked him. He never sought thanks, simply doing what he could because he could. As I close, I leave you with this thought: why do we celebrate and honor posthumously? My heart aches with regret for not saying thank you sooner. So thank you, Baba Jean, for my night, for my place in your light. Thank you, Phyllis, for sharing your home and your husband's vision with us. To Eugene's children, all 8 of us, thank you for the respect and love you showed as you shared your father with countless aunts and uncles. To Eugene's son, I'm sorry. The mold of a man who made your father's shoes was cast only once. There was one Umoja chief, one Baba Jean, one dreamer with a vision. Now try your best to be the best Jackson you can. You can be. You had the finest foundation and the greatest teacher. My only consolation is in John 5:28-29. So, Baba Jean, sleep well until that scripture is fulfilled. Hearing your voice again will be a privilege, and when I do, I'll be ready to say, thank you for inspiring a woman of the soil you met by chance.
Thank you. Thank you, Auntie Carol. Thank you, Aisha, for reading that. Okay. Is everybody doing okay? Yes. If you need to stand up, you can stand up. Stretch a little bit, wiggle. You know Baba J was a big dancer, so nobody said anything about that yet, but I guess I will. Next, we have supposed to be a recording of Reverend Jackson, which we cannot play. So we are going to move on to the Jackson sons. Bakari and Ayanda, please join me up here. So I think, Bakari, let's go as it is. You go first, explain who you are and where you are on the line.
Good afternoon, everyone. That's my older sister. I'm the 5th child. Thank you all for coming. I'm just going to dive right into it. It's time to wake up. No matter how hard we tried to fight Baba's baritone voice over the intercom, it was always seemed to find a way to pierce through the pillow wrapped around our ears. Imagine thinking you're on holiday, but every few days or so, you get woken up to go for a 5 to 10 kilometer walk to the beach. No questions asked. No one was safe. As long as you could walk, you were going to invest in your physical and mental health. Even the little ones on holiday with us over the years had to go. In fact, they always seem to set the pace. I remember one year Nigiste thought she would outfox him and did not bring walking shoes. She ended up doing it in flip-flops. That was the magnitude of the man, the extraordinary leader we've gathered here today to celebrate. What a beautiful life. His love for his family, friends, and community came naturally. You'll hear much about this incredible journey in detail today. However, I'd like to focus on Baba. He has been truly an inspiring figure for so many. As far as I can remember, I wanted to be just like him. No matter how tough life got, he always seemed to have an air of calm, like he knew exactly what to do. His mission was clear: do everything in his power to leave a positive, lasting impact on the African community. One African family, as he put it in his UN speech. For Baba, life was an adventure. Whether it was in his career creating the largest black-owned radio network in America, among many other businesses, or moving his family to South Africa at the behest of Nelson Mandela. I'll never forget when we first released our zebra in the game reserve, how my feet went flying through the air as he yanked me by the collar to pull me out of the way of a charging zebra. A story for another time. My life has been nothing short of a dream because of Baba. He made the most incredible woman my mother. I have the greatest uncle in the whole wide world, his right-hand man. He gave me an incredible large family. He reconnected me to my African roots. He inspired me to pursue my wildest dreams, even when other people didn't share the same vision. He spoke truth to power, and so shall I. He knew how to open so many doors and didn't even have to be there. One day, as a young Howard University student, 2 of my fellow students and I went to see the Honorable Minister Farrakhan give a speech in Southeast DC. Knowing Baba's history, I called him and wondered if I could meet the Honorable Minister. He gave me the boomer version of "say less." He told me to find Dick Gregory, who was also in attendance, and tell him I sent you. And I did just that. Without hesitation, Uncle Dick led us through the security of the Fruit of Islam straight to the back room where the Honorable Minister was. In a smooth and calm voice, the minister said to me, "You look just like your father." And I thought to myself, Baba's so cool. A man far, far ahead of his time, mixing profits with social purpose in the 70s, he believed in African capitalism, once averring, "If our institutions were established, we wouldn't have to worry about tomorrow. The foundation to make change would already be established." As I study at his alma mater, Columbia University, I share his vision and many of his feats. It will continue to live on through us. If he were here with us today, he would say, there is still lots of work to do. And as they said before, to whom much is given, much is expected. Baba, you are watching over us, as you always said you would. I will always listen and keep an eye out for you because, as you so eloquently put it, it's time to get up. To get up and live life to our fullest potential. You are one of the greatest examples of that. And I will forever be grateful for your love, your lessons, and most of all, I will be grateful for you. Thank you.
Yo, I didn't think it was gonna be this hard. Starting to hit me now. For those who don't know me, my name is Ian Jackson. I'm Baba's last born. For this one, I need all my brothers. Bafo, please come. Tabiso, I need you too, dog. Please, can you come down? I first want to thank all of you for being here today. I think Baba would be overjoyed to see a side like this. It's also been quite a long time since so many of us have been gathered in a room together like this. I think our gathering here is a great testimony to one of Baba's greatest ideologies was umoja, which means unity in Swahili. Baba was a very multifaceted man. He prospered within the business realm, and he also had a deep passion for sports. I believe he really passed this passion down to my siblings and I. But furthermore, the greatest thing that Baba left us with was each other. I believe that I think Baba would agree himself that this big family that he's created is his greatest accomplishment. And again, me saying us being here today is physical proof that he lives on throughout all of us. Baba was a pioneering Pan-Africanist and had a deep appreciation for Africa and South Africa and its deep and rich culture. So to close, I'd like to say a Sotho metaphor that I came up with my brother Tabiso and I a while back. It goes, Noka kai lahlelwe ke moteo wa yona, which means the river never loses its source. The word moteo means foundation, and I think in this situation Baba is our foundation, and we as his descendants are the river. Like the Nile, we may stretch out into many different ways and kilometers, but we're still connected back to one singular place. Thank you.
So I also didn't introduce myself. My name is Bradley Jackson. I am the second born. I have an older sister, Stephanie, who's watching. She's directing, correct. From so far, I've seen all her messages. Yeah. There's so many adjectives to describe my father, and it's difficult to choose just one because I think, and my brothers would agree, he was a disciplinarian. He had a lot of passion. He loved the African diaspora. He loved South Africa, and it's really hard to peg him down to one thing. But I'll say that in each of us, he instilled a quality, which I believe Setu is going to describe us all in his speech. But he loved to discuss and talk about politics, music, traveling. And as we sit here today, I'm sure that each of you has an interaction with him that you probably can highlight and talk about. But But as I was growing up, I grew up in Miami. Um, my mother and my two sisters grew up in Miami. My father was always on the road. Uh, Barely saw him probably once a month. Stephanie, you can chime in on the chat. Probably saw him once a month for about 7, 8 years, all through junior high and high school, because he was working hard to develop these businesses. You heard people talk about Unity Broadcasting, National Black Network, Quicks, WDAS, BLS in New York. He was always working, and that's why I think the best way to describe him is that he was disciplined and controlled in what he did. He believed that African people needed to rise up and become and take their place in society. He believed that having lots of children was wealth. He also, as you heard Will and Antoine speak, he was very much a helpful person, somebody who supported you in your efforts. So as you hear all of us, I think you can hear the common theme that he was disciplined and very focused. Just as these young guys behind me, I woke up, before they came around, I woke up early too. We used to have to run in Miami. So you can hear that health and wealth was critical. Traveling, my first time to Africa with my Uncle Fred in the back, I was 15 years old. He was generous with his wealth, especially with his family. And I'm extremely thankful. I think all of us are thankful here, standing here. I think that what I would like to see is everybody to remember him as the person he was in your life. We intend to reinforce and carry on his legacy through our own individual lives and as a unit. I would also like to thank his extended family, who Setu will actually also highlight in his at the end of his eulogy speech. I feel a great loss for him not being around. He would always call and check on you. That's something else that was always important. No matter how far away you were on your birthday, he was calling you. When you were going through something and you shared it with him, he had recommendations, things to share from his own life experiences. So I don't want to repeat what everybody else has said and is going to say, but he is truly missed. I think both in his professional life. I received phone calls from the U.S. All through the night when he passed. I still get messages even today. So I want to thank everybody who's here, and thank you for coming out. He was a really beautiful individual, and I'm glad we're here celebrating his life together. Next we have Mr. Setu Jackson to speak on Baba's eulogy.
No, Setu, they can't hear you. They gotta do this.
You want the mic?
No. Stephanie, can you hear me? Hello? Steph, hello? Can anyone hear me on the video call? I can see them going up and down, but... Nah, dude, just... She said yes. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Microphone it is then. Okay. Good day, everyone. Thank you for all being here today. I'm sure Baba would be very, very happy to see you all.
one thing that's for sure that everyone's spoken about today, Baba loved people. He loved the big crowd. He loved to be the center of that crowd. Yeah. So about 2 weeks ago, let me introduce myself first. My name is Siposetu Tumelo Jackson. I'm number 7, second to last. Ayanda is number 8. But yeah, one thing about me, I like to give context to whatever I'm speaking about. So this will be exactly the same. About 2 weeks ago, it was fall break. So that means Thursday and Friday we had no school. Monday it was also a holiday. So I had big plans for the weekend. I was trying to, when I was younger, I was very socially anxious. So as I grew up, I tried to be more like Baba and lean into my socializing aspect of myself. So for the past few weeks, don't tell Mama, I've been hosting people all the time. Yeah, so this weekend, I was calling it a blockbuster weekend. It was going to be massive. No school Thursday, no school Friday, no school Monday. Oh, it was going to be amazing. But yeah, that morning, I messaged my friend at 6 a.m., asked him what he had planned for the weekend. And he messaged me saying that our close friend, he had a heart attack. This guy was 19 years old. And so he had a heart attack, and I was thinking, what's wrong with this guy? He's 19 years old, we're all healthy, we're all strong. It's gonna be a big weekend. Why is he having a heart attack? I had to go to work that day, and I was thinking, okay, now I can't, I'd scheduled volleyball that day. So I was like, after work, I'm gonna play volleyball. But now, I can't play volleyball, I have to go see this guy in the hospital, right? So yeah, that wasn't great. 11 a.m. later that day, I found out that he had passed away. I assumed I will keep it together, I promise. I assumed I was going to see him later that day. That wasn't the case though. I spent the rest of that day weeping with all my friends, but also laughing and smiling. A few weeks prior to that, I'd spoken with another one of my friends. I'm like, we need to be closer as a friend group. We spend every single day with each other, but we don't really know each other deeply. And ever since my friend passed away, we spend literally every single day together. As soon as I get back home from work, I'm not doing my homework, unfortunately. I'm going to see my friends, literally until the minute I go to sleep. Later that day, that Friday, we spent the whole day together. I got to the gym. I was in the gym for 5 minutes. Uncle Fred gives me a call, and he delivers the news about Baba. The world stopped. You know, Baba had always prepared Ayanda and I for his death. He was 60 years old when I was born. He was 63 when Ayanda was born. So he knew it was coming. On these famous walks we always used to go on, he would tell us, we're having a wonderful morning, the sun is bright, and he'd talk about, guys, I'm going to die. But you shouldn't be concerned, because my spirit will live on through you. When I'm in the dirt, I'll still be here on earth, because my blood is the same as your blood. So yeah, today, there were some tears, of course, I can't control it. But today we're here to celebrate. So please, put on a smile, be happy, and prepare to read this eulogy, because I spent a lot of time on the eulogy, so we're going to read it together, okay? Please take your pamphlets out. Let me get on my phone. So, as you've heard, Baba had an illustrious business career. There was a lot to talk about there, and I feel like that's been covered for the most part. And to me personally, I'd rather speak to him as a person than what he did as a businessman. It's important, he was influential, but that's not what really mattered to me. He could build Dubai, he could build New York City. I don't really care too much, to be honest. I'm like, is he gonna play tennis with me later or not, But yeah. A man of unwavering conviction, Baba was a beacon for a prosperous Africa, embodying his purpose with every fiber of his being, living many lives and touching innumerable others. Baba held the belief that the toughest challenges produce the strongest people, a truth his own journey exemplified. Born into the adversity of the Jim Crow era, Baba faced obstacles that would have deterred others, yet he found a way to not only thrive, but also pave a path for those around him. His success wasn't merely measured by wealth or material possessions. It was in the strength and potential of his community, in the opportunities they seized, and the resilience they demonstrated. Those fortunate enough to meet him, even briefly, felt his presence before he spoke. And when he did, his words, whether delivered with a smooth bass or commanding baritone, left a lasting impact. Together we gather to honor the extraordinary legacy of Baba, a man whose thoughts, words, and deeds are unforgettable. The quiet strength behind Baba's journey was a support system. Being from a large family and building his own, his connection to loved ones provided a wellspring of resilience during challenging times. His children embodied facets of his complex character. Stephanie, creative. Brad, social. Kim, nurturing. Aisha, leader. Bakari, explorer. Shasha, fearless. Setu, introspective, charismatic, intelligent, handsome. Ayanda, passionate. Live seasons brought Baba both joyful summers and harsh winters, but through it all stood a loving partner at each phase. Mama Brenda, Mama Phyllis, and Mama. In their own ways, magnified his strength and shaped his character. His brother, Pastor Simon Gordon, was instrumental in Baba's life as a supportive confidant. No individual had more impact on his life than his brother, Uncle Fred. Can you all take a moment to appreciate Uncle Fred? Together they were a dynamic duo. Baba, the unstoppable force, and Uncle Fred, the anchor in the storm. Uncle Fred was the calm harbor where Baba found solace and guidance amid life's most challenging tempests. They exemplified the refined strength of family and mutual respect. You know, growing up, Ayanda and I, we had a lot of conflicts. We didn't used to get along. Even now, we still don't get along. Every time we had issues, though, Baba would tell me I shouldn't treat Ayanda the way I treated him, and he shouldn't treat me the way he treats me. Because he's my built-in friend for life. He's going to be my best friend, blood of my blood, skin of my skin. We have the same heart. He spoke about Ayanda, and he would speak about Uncle Fred, and he'd say, you see Uncle Fred, he's my best friend in this entire world. If anything's wrong, I can call Uncle Fred. You and Ayanda are the same. Every time I speak to Uncle Fred, he speaks about Baba. I'm not sure there's a deeper love than that I've experienced. A lover of fresh fruit, technology, and nature, he envisioned a world where human innovation and divine creation worked hand in hand. To those close to him, hearing Bill Withers immediately brought Baba to mind, a testament to his personal charm and the warmth he shared. Health was essential to him. He dedicated his mornings to stretching and exercising, maintaining a disciplined life that mirrored his commitment to umoja, unity. While he built structures that would outlast him, Baba understood that his greatest legacy was the personal message he left with each individual he encountered. Authenticity was his hallmark. His thoughts were genuine, his ideals revolutionary, and his actions true. Baba was a man with grand visions, blessed with the cognitive horsepower and determination to make them a reality. No dream was too far-fetched for the boy born on his grandmother's sister's farm in Oklahoma. Plan your work and work your plan. A phrase frequently heard by those closest to him, deeply cherished, and one that best exemplifies his enduring spirit. He was intentional, and his time with you was yours and yours alone. Though he met with presidents and collaborated with the most influential figures of his time, he knew when to turn off that side of himself and devote his attention to those who needed him most. His faith in himself was great, but was dwarfed in comparison to his faith in the greater community. He's made us all believe he could bend the very fabric of reality and accomplish feats most could never imagine. His story, a story of perseverance, faith, and love, will live on in each of us. As you say goodbye, let us remember, indlela ibuso kwabaphambili. The way forward is to ask those who have been before. Thank you.
Brothers, thank you so much. We are now going to have a short video of the life and times of Eugene with all of his children at different times. I got to tell the truth.
Hi, guys. I'm Shasha, since my family seems to be introducing themselves in numbers. I'm number 6, his last born daughter. You wanna come up here, babe? I was designated with closing remarks, but I didn't know how. I didn't find a way on this program, so I'm gonna say what I want to say anyway. But I'm gonna start by saying that, you know, it was really heavy news for me to find out about my dad. I hadn't seen him in about 6 years. Living in the United States, you know, I've come over a couple of times in that time, but I was always in Joburg, just really trying to maintain my residency, if I was being honest. But my dad always made a way to either, you know, reach out to me or call me. So when I heard the news, I actually knew when my sister called me. I knew. She called me and I just was like, "Is Baba right?" And she's like, "Yeah." Growing up in his household, I won't lie, he used to talk a lot about his war stories. He would tell us about all the presidents he met, all the people he's met, and my sister and I were talking about it. We just not ignore him, but it was just like, okay, you know, when you hear someone just say things so many times, you're like, okay, we get it. You're the big dog, you know. But, you know, having to go through some old pictures and even curate and put together this video, it was very humbling. You know, to everybody else, he was always a super huge figure, and he was a huge figure in my life too, but he was always just my dad. And it's been very humbling by either the outpour of support, you know, people reaching out just to see the effect that he had on so many people's lives, which was his ultimate journey and his ultimate vision. He really wanted to connect people authentically to want to help ourselves and put ourselves in a better position. And just hearing all of the stories of how he impacted so many people has just been really amazing. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's reached out, everyone who's showed up, even if they couldn't be here physically, even if they can't even be online right now. And in closing, if you've ever spent time at the Jackson House and celebrated Kwanzaa with us, you'd know that it was something that took place over a 7-day period, and we would sit there for about 3 to 4 hours, and he made sure that every single person would give their own experience and their own definition of some of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. So the first one, which I think it was mentioned, but the first thing my dad tried to do when we moved to this country was actually change our last name from Jackson to Umoja. That's where Umoja village comes from, but I don't even know why it never happened, but that was one of his big dreams. So let us come together as one family and community, supporting each other in this time of loss, just as Baba brought us together throughout his life. Kujichagulia, self-determination. Baba exemplified the strength of self-determination. Let us honor his legacy by pursuing our dreams with the same courage and conviction that he showed us. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. In remembrance of Baba, let's commit to uplifting one another and working together to create a supportive environment for all. Ujama, cooperative economics. He believed in the power of community support. As we remember him, let's continue to support local businesses and uplift each other's endeavors. Nia, purpose. He lived with purpose and passion. Let's carry forward that spirit, finding our own purposes and striving to make a difference in the world around us. Kumba, creativity. He inspired creativity in all aspects of life. May we honor him by expressing ourselves creatively and embracing the beauty in our lives. Imani, faith. Finally, let's hold on to faith, not just in our memories of Baba, but in each other and in the brighter days ahead. And as we conclude, let's carry forward these principles, honoring him by embodying them in our lives. Thank you for being here to celebrate the remarkable life of my father.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to acknowledge some of the next of kin, the grandchildren of Baba Jackson. Christopher Matomo, please come up. Naya, where's Mello? Please tell him to come. Come, come on, Mello. So these are some of the grandchildren of Baba Jackson. This is Mello, Naya, Matomo, and Christopher. There are several others. I think it's, my count is 14? 16? 16 in all. But these are the children that are here. Baba really enjoyed kids, as everybody has said today. He thoroughly enjoyed, I think he drew energy from the interaction with children. And we just wanted to acknowledge the kids so that, and if they have something to say, is there anything? No? You want to say something?
I love you, Baba.
Yes, yes, okay. Thank you so much. Lastly, we will have Baba Jay's brother, Uncle Simon, brother, come and close us with a prayer. And then thereafter, we will have another performance, and we'll close it out. Thank you.
Well, let's take a moment and we applaud it. We applaud at the beginning Eugene for his life. Let's applaud his children and family. That's as we close do that. In my last conversation with my brother, statement that we had, he spent us last times we talked having a great spiritual dialogue. He was in this whole thing about spirituality, what that means, and how all that counts. And I said something to him, and I said, listen, death doesn't hurt, it's life that hurts. And it's important to make sure that you grab the best that you can grab out of life while you can, because once death and its finality happens, everything just moves from that point on. The people you meet, they all have points where they tap into your life, and those different things mean different things at different times. I want especially an instance, of course, he's the one that introduced me to Fred, and I don't think we give Fred enough credit. Fred keeps everything and everybody connected, no matter what. And I want to make sure that we applaud Fred for his great brotherhood that he does across the board. That's across the board. I met him in train stations and everything else, with us just keeping family together while he's passing through. Just I come and meet him in the train station. He keeps the kids and the family together. And so thank you for just being who you are. Love you for that. There's nobody, who else could be in that position that even Gene trusted to be in his life like that kind of way. While I was sitting there, I got a text and a message for Phyllis from Ambassador Susan Bennett from Ghana. And she said she's sorry she could not be here, but she wanted me to make sure I said to the family that she thanks you for loaning Gene to the world. And so I wanted to make sure I shared that as I enter into my opening prayer and my closing prayer. The thing I think is important to mention that Gene spent those last times really establishing his relationship with God. And the last scripture I shared with him was Thessalonians 4:13, where it says, "But I will not have you ignorant, brethren, concerning them which who are asleep, that ye sorrow not, even as those which have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them which are asleep in Jesus will God bring with him." Rest on our brother, rest on Father, rest on friend. Lord, we thank you for this moment, for this great tribute, for this time to remember a soldier, a dreamer, an organizer, a builder, a chairman, a director, but a father and a brother and a husband and a friend. Thank you for his life. May we celebrate it with grandeur, with greatness. May we tap into elements of it as we remember how great a gift you gave us with Eugene Jackson. In the name of our Lord in Christ we pray. Amen. Amen.
My people, open your eyes and answer the call of the drum. Freddie Moore, Samora Machel has come. Maputo, home of the brave. Our nation will soon be as one. Frelimo, Samora Machel has one. Mozambique, a luta continua. Mozambique, a luta continua. Mozambique, a luta continua. Mozambique, a luta continua. Come on, we can dance now. These are the last items, so please feel free. My people, open your eyes and answer the call of the drum. Freddie Moore, Samora Machel has one. Hey! Mozambique, a luta continua. Mozambique, a luta continua. In Zimbabwe, a luta continua. In Botswana, a luta continua. continua, a luta continua, continua. Okay, now we're doing the last one. Yes. And the title of this one is Midolens. And with this one, you're gonna have to enjoy the moment and sing along with me. Midolens, 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 ithandwa sami. 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 Buta bahua ari, ari yang Midolens. Buta bahua ari, ari yang Midolens. So now I'm coming to you now. Come on, everybody, let's get up. Let's celebrate this time. Come on. Come on. Midolens, 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 ithandwa sami. 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 Buta bari, hari yang Midolens. Buta bari, hari yang Midolens. Wosa, wosa, wosa. Midolens, 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 ithandwa sami. 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 Buta bari, hari yang Midolens. Buta bari, hari yang Midolens. Thank you.